Houston. I'm getting ready to speak to the American Medical Student Association. We're going to be talking about how to get into medical school. Come on, check it out. I'm excited because today my goal is very simple. It is to tell you how to get into medical school. Over the years, we have helped 457 students in our program get into med school. Let me tell you about this one student. This one student knew at the age of 10 that he was going to medical school. 10 years old, right? And at 10 years old, he was telling everybody in the neighborhood. He started working with his little operation set. Y'all remember the little operation set? So he knew he was going to be a physician. He gets to high school, right? And in his senior year of high school, life happens, and he finds himself homeless, literally sleeping on concrete. He's on this concrete thinking, I'm broken down, I'm tired, right? Now this would have been an opportunity for him to give up, throw in the towel. But guess what? Even though he didn't want to wake up that next day, something happened. The sun came up anyway. And at that point, he knew he had some purpose. He knew he had to do something with his life. And so what he did was he worked hard, and he ended up being taken in by this place called the Covenant House, which is here in Houston, Texas, for homeless teens. And he stayed at the Covenant House until he graduated from high school. When he graduated from high school, guess what? He got a full-ride scholarship, because despite all this stuff that he was going through, he was number 27 out of 900 students. That's pretty good, right? And he had a full-ride football scholarship to go to college. He gets to college, and he's this athlete. And not only is this athlete, but he decides to join a fraternity while he's there, right? Now, I don't know if you know, but athletics and fraternities, they don't work well with your GPA. So he had a good GPA starting at 3.5, but by the time he finished with football and the fraternity, his GPA dropped down to a 2.6. Is he ready for medical school? This would have been a good time for him to do what? Throw in the towel. Now, but he had a mindset that he still wanted to be a what? He wanted to be a doctor, right? And nobody couldn't tell him he wasn't going to be a doctor. You know why? He knew in his mind that there was nothing that's going to stop him. Nothing in the world could stop him from being a what? A doctor. So one day he goes home. Now keep in mind, he's graduated from college now. And it's 10 years. And guess what he did? He became a police officer. And for 10 years, he worked as a police officer. And one day, he was transporting this prisoner to Bentop Hospital. And while he was there, he saw these doctors in these white coats. And he looked at himself in that blue police uniform, and he said to himself, man, I remember back in the day, whoo, I wanted to be a what? So he decided to go, and he talked to his mother, and his mother told him, he told his mother, you know, Mom, I want to go to medical school, but I'll be almost 40 when I'm done. She said, you're going to be 40 whether you go to medical school or not. Pretty deep, right? And so guess what? He was so excited. He went home and he told his fiance, he said, baby, guess what? I'm going to medical school. And she said, why? He said, because it's always been my dream. She said, but what are you going to do about the bills? What are you going to do about the car note? He said, well, I tell you what, if you'll just kind of hold us down for the first 4 years while I'm in med school, I'll make a little money when I'm in residency, and we'll be okay once I finish residency. And she said, I can't do that. I didn't sign up for this. And she did what? She walked out the door. Now at that point, this was a good time to do what? Throw in the towel. But he wasn't going to throw in the towel. Well, this individual said she wasn't going to stay. And at that point, I had to make up my mind. Do I keep her or follow my dreams? Well, obviously, you see what I got on right now, right? So we know what the outcome was, right? So my goal here is to tell you basically how I became a gym and how each one of you are going to become a gym. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen with this group, but I spoke to a group one time, and I told them that everybody in that group was going to medical school. And I told them if I looked them in their eyes and they make eye contact with me, they would go to medical school. And, well, y'all looking really hard. Okay, all right, I follow you, all right. So, what is the GEMS, right? The G, good grades versus great grades. Well, when I graduated from undergrad, do you know my GPA was a 2.7, right? 2.7. Was I ready for medical school? That's what everybody told me. Guess what? I was crazy enough to think I was, so I paid for the MCAT anyway. I went to the MCAT testing center, I sat down there, and all of a sudden I could hear all these voices saying, you're not smart enough, you don't look like a doctor, all these things, and you got a 2.7 GPA. So I got up, I didn't take the test, and we know what I did for the next 10 years was become a police officer. Well, after that, I went back to school, because I said I knew I wanted to do this. So I spent 2 years in a post-bac program just to bring my GPA up, just to show them these 2 years, those years were not reflective of who I was. So for those next 2 years, my GPA was a 3.9 in those 2 years. But guess what? When I applied to medical school, my GPA was a 2.9. All that work I'd done, but all those hours I had, I barely made a budge in that GPA. Should I apply for medical school with a 2.9? No, everybody said no. Well, guess what? This time I didn't listen to them. I said, you know what? Once again, my mother, who's very wise and she's passed, but she said something to me. She said, the only guarantee you have is that if you don't apply, you won't get in. I said, that's true. That's very true. So I said, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice and go ahead and apply. I applied. I took my MCAT, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And when I applied, let me just tell you this. I wasn't confident. I wasn't sure that I was going to get a call back. I wasn't sure that all that money I was putting into TMDSAS was worth it. But I went on and applied anyway. That brought me to the next thing. If I was going to apply, I needed to make sure the other parts of my application were super, super strong. That's where the E comes in. The extracurricular and what? The essays. Now, in this day and age, which y'all have ChatGPT and all of it, we didn't have all of that back then. Next thing, your M. I don't care if anybody has ever told you the MCAT doesn't matter. Tell them, don't even talk to them, just walk away. Let me just tell you something. Every school that you're going to be applying to, this MCAT matters, because whether you go to Rice, U of H, TSU, it doesn't matter. The one thing that's universal is the MCAT. So you can have a 4.0 at one school and a 3.5 at the other school. The only thing that we know that's consistent is the MCAT. So the MCAT is important. Well, guess how important it is? There was a study done from 2018 to 2023. This is going to blow your mind. Those who started studying for the MCAT in their freshman year, look at the matriculation rate. Am I messing with y'all follow where I'm coming from, right? If they started in their sophomore year, look at what it goes to. It dropped all the way down to what? Now, wait if they wait till their senior year. Now, again, this doesn't apply to you because you are the diamond in the what? That's right. You are the unpolished diamond that just needs a little help. Am I right? Shadow sooner than later. Don't wait till the end to shadow. Just like the extracurricular, start your shadowing now. Now, a lot of times I know when the COVID hit, everybody was doing the virtual shadowing and everything like that. If you do not have shadowing experience or even know anyone to shadow, call us. We have plenty of doctors that are willing to let students shadow. All you have to do is let us know. Now, I say all that to say this. We are looking for what again? We're looking gems, the diamond in the rough, right? Raise your hand if you are that diamond in the rough. Did y'all see that? When I first walked in, I asked one question. I said, who in here is going to what? And how many hands went up? And then when I asked you all at the end, who is the what? The diamond in the rough. Do you know all the hands didn't go up this time? And I understand why. Why? Because applying to medical school, working towards medical school could be hard. But guess what? If somebody came from the somebody's fiance walked out, if somebody went through and had a 2.9 GPA and got into medical school, then that means you can do it too. Everybody follow where I'm coming from? When I graduated from medical school, I was going to Sam's to get me, I was going to have a party. Because, you got to have a party. If you go through all of that and make it, you got to have a party. So I'm in Sam's, and guess who I run into? Who? I did, my ex-fiance, right? And she says, hey, how you doing? I said, hey, I'm good. How are you? She says, what you been up to? I said, nothing much. I just graduated from medical school. And she said, you know how you hear the, what? You finished medical school? You really did it, huh? I said, yeah, you didn't think I would? She said, well, I've been trying to call you, and And I just couldn't, you know what I mean? My point is very simple. I'm laughing, I'm joking, but I'm so serious. Honestly, if you're passionate, if you really want to go to medical school, you can. I don't care what your GPA is right now, because the thing about it is, you cannot change what happened, but you can change what happens. Y'all follow where I'm coming from? We're going to give you so much information, so many things that you can use to get into medical school. And not only that, we have a mentorship program that basically will help you and guide you from step one all the way until you get into medical school, okay?